Welcome to Deep Look, Ultiworld's weekly radio show about the current state of Ultimate. I am the host and the editor, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me is Ultiworld's senior editor, Keith Rayner. Keith, Ultimate people, smart people, do a lot of cool things. A lot of tech people, lawyers, you know. But how about this? Rory Titcomb, of course, famous of Titcomb family, longtime Seattle Riot player, great player, just named the chief operating officer of the WNBA's Seattle Storm. That's pretty sweet, Keith.
It's very sweet. I mean, this is something I had no idea about until we found out about it like yesterday. I mean, I do occasionally see Rory posting about her business relationships, and she works with some women in business focused organizations around Seattle, and that networking has probably helped. But her experience in Ultimate with the Cascades, with Five, it's got to be something they saw on the resume. And it's very cool to see somebody who's put in the work there and been a key leader in Ultimate, getting an opportunity like this. I mean, the Seattle Storm, like, you could Google it. They have a $151 million valuation. Like, this is not small potatoes, you know?
I mean, I feel like it's one of the better WNBA franchises. I'm not an expert, but that's just my sense of things. And it's a great market for WNBA. But I mean, think about what a perfect fit this is. You know, Rory has long been very interested in business, obviously interested in sports, has done operational work at a small scale level. And then as a growing role, she's just coming off of being the chief operating officer for a venture capital firm that invests in women's startups. So it's like just a perfect confluence of things to become, a very prestigious role. Who knows what's next for Rory after this? I mean, very cool to see.
It's cool for Rory, Charlie, but let's talk about how this benefits you and me personally. Like, can we get there? Like, I think that now there's going to be millionaire and billionaire owners who are going to be exposed to the Western Ultimate League. They're going to purchase franchises. Western Ultimate League goes global. Money comes pouring. This is the ticket. Who needs the Olympics? Who needs the NCAA? Rory Titcomb saves the day.
Rory Titcomb named COO of Seattle Storm. Step 2, triple question mark. Step 3, profit.
Thanks, Rory.
Thank you, Rory. But really, it's very cool. But on the other hand, go Liberty. So thank you.
Oh, coming through with the hot takes.
Is that a hot take? All right, let's get into this week's news. The AUDL second round of the playoffs is all wrapped up. We have our championship weekend set. 3 teams making their championship weekend debuts, and then the New York Empire. So Austin stuns Atlanta in double overtime on Universe Point, 21-20 in Atlanta on Friday night. The Salt Lake Shred handle their business against the LA Aviators. They win 23-20. The Minnesota Wind Chill get past Indianapolis 21-18 up in Minnesota. And then the New York Empire dismantle the DC Breeze. I mean, I did not have this game circled as the biggest win of the weekend. Final score, 24-19. New York sets a new single game record for fewest turnovers. They had 4 turnovers, Keith. 4 in the game. Pretty amazing stuff. And that is despite losing Jeff Babbitt and John Lithio to concussion symptoms and a back tweak right before the game, within 2 hours of the game happening.
And during the game,
Jeff Babbitt has been one of their biggest offensive contributors, and yet New York just plays one of the cleanest O-line games you'll ever see at any level to just destroy the Breeze.
They thought Jack Williams might not return during part of that game, right? Like, it looked like it could get even worse. You're pulling new guys over to the O-line, and they've been on the other side of this, obviously, famously, playing against a team that played a perfect game, basically, but now they get to put the hurt on someone else, as if they needed more, as if you needed more reasons to make them the favorite. But we got to talk about Atlanta and Austin, right?
Yes, we do. What are your thoughts What are your thoughts? Atlanta was up 8-5 in this game.
They were. And tough scene for worthy MVP conversation player Brett Holzmeier. Drops the game-winning hammer. You throw the hammer up to the big man, gets an almost uncontested opportunity to catch it, doinks it
with 3 seconds on the clock. By the way,
with 3 seconds on the clock,
overtime,
and Austin got a surprisingly good look at the end zone out of that 3 seconds, and also I'm pretty sure that he's the one who got scored on for the goal that sealed it up in sudden death overtime too. Ignominious conclusion to a remarkable season for Holzmeier. Really was one of the best players in the league. That's okay. Just tough.
I can't let you hang this on Holzmeier. This was a systematic,
this is how
team-wide choke job of epic proportions. Atlanta is a cursed city that deserves no sports happiness. And this is just another block in the wall of the pain that this city has earned. What in the world was that performance down the stretch from the Hustle? What was that? They're at home. They're up big early. And then they just cannot get the ball off of Austin at all. Austin puts together some huge string of O-line holds. And to their credit, Atlanta's offense was pretty good. But they fail to close it out at the end of regulation. They fail to close it out in overtime. And then they have the disc because they got the disc first at double OT universe. Okay. They go down the field. They're all the way into the red zone. They have the disc in the hand of their best thrower. And he throws a terrible pass into the end zone that is layout D'd by Kyle Henke. And then, Keith, they get the disc back. They get it back. They're in the red zone again, and they turn it over again, and they lose. Unbelievable.
Yeah, well, it was brutal. And you don't have to lecture me about Atlanta sports fans and our suffering. Although I take umbrage with the phrase that we earned it. The fans have suffered many a time without having to done anything but root for their teams. But anyway, Brett Holzmeier had the disc a step outside of the end zone in sudden death, and they failed to convert. He resets it to Taylor, and the rest is history. You just blown opportunities for Atlanta. I don't know if they were afraid of the moment or what, but they were not up to the task. And Austin gave them ample opportunities. Now, this Austin team is scrappy and they're playmaking. Not everyone is going to get that block that Kyle Henke got, even with the bad throw. Not every player in the league is going to go out there and go take that disc away. But Henke was there to do the job, and the team was able to convert the other way. Henke also had a throwaway with like 30 seconds left prior to that I think was probably a mistake on his part. It gave Atlanta the chance to hit Holzmeier for the potential game-winning hammer. But just you get up to bat with a couple chances to drive in the winning run, and Atlanta just struck out repeatedly at home.
Pain for Atlanta, and they blew it against New York. They had the chance to knock off New York last season, and they should have won the game, and they didn't. Brutal.
Charlie, let me ask you. I mean, you've gotten a chance to see this team. Have they run snake in the grass? No one's going to see it coming. Double overtime or in overtime in the playoffs. No one's going to see it coming. My summer league team successfully snake in the grass. And I thought about Trent Spinks the whole time. I was the snake, and we successfully ran it.
It was 2 years ago, by the way, that Atlanta lost to New York, of course, in the Atlantic Division season. But no, I'm with you, brutal. Keith. They got to pull out the trick plays or something. They got to do something to get the bad monkey off the back. And hey, listen, I still think they're the better team. I do. Now, we got to give credit to this Austin team to go back to back against Carolina and Atlanta, who they had not beaten at all during the regular season, and just get the performances they did from their O-line. I mean, the O-line against Atlanta was awesome. How many breaks did they even give up? They gave up a couple early in the game.
They gave up 4 breaks.
And that was like it. They gave up like those early ones, and then they did not get broken much after that. It's very impressive.
Yeah, they're clearly like going to be the underdogs going to this weekend. But I had a hunch, not that they would necessarily do this, but that the three South teams could end up being way closer together than we anticipated. And I think if you resimulated the South Division a bunch more times, like you would still have a pretty wide distribution of the end team advancing. Like I think Carolina, Austin, and Atlanta all would have been worthy South champions, which is kind of what we thought coming into the season. And we're a little disappointed with the way it played out. But at least at the end, we had a pretty compelling set of games between the trio.
I mean, there's just so many ways that, I don't know about Carolina. They didn't bring up the best roster. I feel like you get punished for that in the AUDL. You can't show up with a half full roster and expect to win against anybody in the playoffs. But Atlanta certainly had all the chances that they needed. Well, my God. Ben Yacht, it replaces Babbitt on the O-line, Keith, and then sets a record for receiving yards. He had 687 receiving yards in the game.
That seems like a lot.
Yeah, I think he's going to have a pretty good edge score this week, Keith. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I do think so. Although we'll see did he have any turnovers, because it's such a low turnover game.
He only had one.
Edge turnovers count for a lot.
That's true. He had a quarter of the team's turnovers.
Sucks to suck, man.
New York their O-line could do no wrong. They gave up a Callahan for the DC's first break of the game that tied it up. And that was basically the last major mistake they made the whole game. The Breeze could do nothing against them. Why do you think New York's offense was so successful when they were replacing players?
Well, they have a lot of experience together. They're obviously immensely talented, and they knew how to fit into the game plan. I mean, I think that the D-line offense and the O-line offense are not so dissimilar in their style of attack. And the players that they were porting over have a good amount of reps with the guys that they were playing with. So when you're bringing over John Randolph and Ben Yacht, they know how to play with the O-line. Like that's not a surprise to me for this team, but it was impressive that they were so ready to step up at such a big time. Like it would have been really easy for them to be a little out of sync, but just didn't lose a step.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing to watch. And it felt, and it's not like DC had a terrible game. Although I've seen some people sort of defending DC by saying, well, they only had 10 turnovers. The thing is, like, almost every single one of those turnovers came from their O-line. They were utterly exhausted. New York's defense was relentlessly hounding them, and they completely crumbled late in the game. They had no answers. It was pretty surprising to see because, we've gotten used to such tight matchups between these two teams. I thought Tyler Monroe played fantastic, and besides that, nobody on DC really had a great game. Not a single player.
Yeah, the numbers not too lovely for anybody. I mean, Christian Boxley kept pretty quiet. Roe McDonald, 2 turnovers, 232 yards, 1 goal, no assists. Like that duo in particular really held off the stat sheet. Johnny Moss may have compiled 778 total yards, but he did so with 3 turnovers. So, not a lot to be super thrilled about. And obviously the D-line's got to be disappointed, but sometimes you just got to tip your cap.
Yeah, I think what I'm curious about as we start to get a chance to look ahead. I mean, obviously Austin is going to be the favorite against New York, considering what's been happening so far in this postseason. But in all seriousness, like, does Austin have any chance against this New York team? New York easily beat Atlanta when the hustle came to town. The talent gap is immense between the two teams, but there is something to be said about the athleticism of this Austin team and the way their O has been playing the last 2 games.
There's no shot in hell. I mean, there is the slim chance. Like I'm sure Austin's gonna tell themselves, everybody counted us out in the last game, and everybody counted us out against Atlanta. Like nobody can tell us what we can't do. Anything is whatever. It is not literally impossible, but it's a long shot. I mean, this is David and Goliath kind of stuff. I think Austin's a pretty good team, all things considered. So in that sense, like I'm not expecting them to go out there and get dogged or anything, but New York's just got so many advantages right now, and they would have to play poorly. I just don't think. I don't think we've talked about this before with other teams. I don't think Austin's A+ game is enough, and that's not where you want to be on the road, or when you're playing on championship weekend your first time, and it's the only other team in championship weekend who's actually been there before.
Yeah, this has all of the makings of a New York blowout. I mean, it's just like, is Austin prepared to play a team of this caliber? Because they haven't seen one all season. Line?
-5.5, -6.5.
Yeah, I mean, and then you start to think about, do you want to take the dog? The dogs have been barking all postseason. Not a lot of favorites covering the spread so far.
I think -5.5 is probably where I'm going to land, but I got to look over the numbers.
It's probably about right. The question is whether the pace of the game will justify such a wide spread. But let's quickly talk about these other games. Salt Lake continuing to ride an awesome offense through to another win, and they've only lost to New York. Is this the foe that New York should expect to see in the finals?
I think so. I mean, I don't see a reason that you're going to come out here favoring Minnesota. Salt Lake, their offense had 3 turnovers. Is that it? Like that's just about as good as what you're getting out of New York. They did not give LA very many chances. So there's a lot of reasons to be enthusiastic about Salt Lake's chances of getting to the final game. And then of course you'll end up talking about the rematch from playing in Salt Lake, but they were able to keep Pavlianis from really being able to take over the game. He ends up with 6 assists, 412 throwing yards, but 5 turnovers. So being able to quiet down Giannis was a great first step also for their defense.
Yeah, and I think Salt Lake has clearly shown that they're able to do what is required on offense to have a chance to win against anybody. Because if you can go out there and you can pile up the holds, you'll have a shot. I think there's certainly going to be underdogs to New York when they get into that game. And we should probably talk about their matchup coming up with Minnesota. Minnesota, similar kind of game. They were just the better team against Indy. And I'm curious about that matchup. Playing at home is a big advantage for Minnesota. It's probably worth a couple points to the spread, Keith. I don't know where you put the line right now. I'd probably say Salt Lake -2.5, maybe 3.5. And the wind chill playing at home, they've got some great defenders. I could see it being a game for sure.
How about Will Brandt, the kid? I mean, don't you remember when he was like just some like almost high school age kid playing on their team, like taking resets because they were missing handlers, and just like the guy who was catching the pull and throwing the centering pass, and now he's leading the team in total yards in a playoff game. 7 assists, 1 goal, just 2 turnovers, 96% completion percentage. Leads the team in completions. I mean, he was the center of their offensive attack.
Yeah, he's showed that promise since his D3 college days. I think he was on the team that beat Sockeye at the U.S. Open.
Yes,
that mutiny team. And he was balling against them. I mean, he's got all the pieces to be a truly elite club and pro player. And I think you're seeing that here. I think he's been a little inconsistent in some of the big spots we've seen him in historically. Is that something that Salt Lake might be able to take advantage of? Perhaps. But I like a lot of the young players on this Minnesota team. Paul Krennic had a good game. Shout out to Cam Brock in the loss, who just played fantastic. He led the game in plus minus. He had 4 goals, 2 assists, and a block, no turns. Guy is still just killing it. And at some point, he's going to retire for real, and he'll be a first ballot Hall of Famer in the AUDL, Keith.
Pretty wild. They had number retired by the org and everything. I mean, he is the institution in Indy.
But yeah, I mean, this Minnesota team, I think it's stylistically interesting because the Central Division is all about grindy defense, ugly games. Sure, the talent level isn't as high as in some of the other divisions, but they learn how to play AUDL Ultimate, and they get tested week in, week in, week in, week out. And Salt Lake wants to play this pretty game, have this flowing offense, and I guarantee you Minnesota is going to muck it up. Whether that's going to be enough for them to win, I do not know. But I think that's going to be competitive.
Yeah, I mean they seem like they were pretty comfortable living up to their namesake, playing in the wind against the Alley Cats, and it got a little ugly there. But they also went like 8 for 10 on Hucks, so they can smooth things out a little bit. I just wonder, I feel like they're a team that they need their defense to go out there and get blocks, and that is how they win, is by being aggressive on defense, getting Dylan DeClerc and Brandon Madison, Paul Krennic flying around, Colin Berry still there. I just don't know if they can do that against such an athletic team like Salt Lake. Like, I don't know how they're going to cover this fast team that effectively and be able to generate turnovers. So I feel like when they can't go out there and get blocks, they're going to really need to rely on the other team to make mistakes, and that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, I just think they're not going to try to play it straight up, matchup defense. That seems like a losing strategy. And I will say this too. As good as the Shred have looked this season, the teams from out west routinely come to championship weekend and get their ass kicked. So is this the year that streak is broken and we see them in the final? I mean, I think on paper they're the better team, but let's see what happens when they have to play against a team that has honed its defense against Madison for 6 years. However many years it's been.
Be interesting to see. I agree with where you're thinking about the line. Probably somewhere in between 2.5 and 3.5.
Who most impresses you on this Shred team? Maybe talking about this weekend in particular. Jordan, obviously. Yeah.
Is there another possible answer?
Probably not.
I mean, during the year, I've been certainly impressed by Jace Dunabile, by the kids, Will Selfridge in particular. Those guys have really stood out. It's been great seeing Grant back. Sean Cannell has pretty much established himself, going from like a player I think nobody had ever heard of to being just a rock for this team over the past couple seasons. So those guys obviously stood out, but it's the Jordan Kerr show. It's his team. I don't know if they can win if he doesn't play well, but he pretty much always plays well, so it doesn't matter.
8 assists, 3 goals, 530 yards, no turnovers for Salt Lake in their win over LA. That's pretty nice. It's pretty nice. Yeah, I think it was an interesting weekend overall. The Austin upset. How about that, Keith? I owe some penance at the start of our next segment.
Yeah. Tough out.
Before that, Kyle Henke joins us from the Austin Soul, and we'll talk about his win over the Atlanta Hustle and his first time at championship weekend. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Joining us now on Deep Look is the Austin Soul's Kyle Henke. Kyle, congrats on making it to championship weekend. First time for the Soul, and welcome to the program.
Thanks, guys, for having me.
Well, you've done it. After going a whole season without beating a playoff team, that's slightly unfair given your schedule. You beat Carolina in Austin, and then you beat Atlanta on the road in Georgia. How did you guys pull this off?
Man, I don't know. I said that we had a lot of magic in that Carolina game, and Atlanta was no different. Considering our regular season and having not topped either Atlanta or Carolina in the regular season, we certainly had a mountain in front of us. We play with a lot of fire, especially in Atlanta. We had to bring a lot, being not at home anymore. We did what we had to do, and we made the plays we had to make. And thankfully, we're just a bunch of young dudes that get real fired up after really anything happens. So that certainly helped us.
How did you manage to kind of ride the roller coaster in the end of that Atlanta game? You go into overtime. It honestly looks like Atlanta has won the game when they get Holzmeier on the hammer. Then you end up in sudden death, but the team survives and manages to come out of it. How do you ride the emotional roller coaster during a game like that?
Unreal. I mean, it's the playoffs. It's uncharted territory, and so thankfully, instead of caving, instead of being a little too afraid of the moment, we were all just smiling on the sideline, like, man, this is awesome. This is so much fun. We're getting to play the Frisbee we wanted to play all season. We're finally in this position in Atlanta against the crowd, against the refs, against the players, and so. Thankfully, even though we're a fairly young team, we were able to rise to the occasion, and everyone was fairly cool-headed, and we just made it happen.
Well, Holzmeier dropping the hammer was obviously a critical part of this victory, but I think it's fair to say that the even bigger play was you blowing up the cut from Austin Nab coming to the cone. The throw from Austin Taylor felt to me on the video like it was way behind where it needed to be. Like it needed to be way more out towards the cone, towards the outside of the end zone. When you saw the throw go up, like what was running through your head in that moment?
Sure. Well, and in that point, it's kind of a difficult thing when you're up against the final point of the game and you can't decide if you want to play really tight or you want to play loose and take a chance somewhere else. And so I chose the former, and you can see in the frame, I got, I lost a step against Nab whenever he went towards the cone. But yeah, that disc went up. It was a little too inside. Austin Taylor had one other too tight of a flick that game, and so when I saw that up, I just knew I had to give everything I could to it. And so thankfully it was enough. Yeah, Austin Nab had to make a bid at it too, and work his way inside as best he could. So. Thankful to just be able to have that extra step. And yeah, I agree. The toss to Holzmeier was, the only reason or one of the only reasons in that overtime that we were able to be here. So props to him.
I'm sure he appreciates that. I mean,
Shout out to Brett. Thanks, buddy.
You had also had the huge layout against Carolina too, which I think came in the fourth quarter as well. Like I think you throughout your career, really, you've been able to come up with plays in these big clutch moments. Do you feel like that's a skill that you bring to the team, and what do you think helps make you so good when it counts the most?
Yeah, I mean, I think the throws are just bad enough to where they're exciting. Some of the greatest highlights are from some of the worst throwing decisions. But yeah, that one at the end of the third quarter against Carolina was a buzzer beater, and so that's just one you got to put up. And then Austin Taylor throwing that one that's just a little inside, giving me a chance for a bit at it. I just do my best to take opportunities when I'm given them, and so I'm super thankful for all the chances that I've gotten to do that, and it just so happens that I've been able to pull off a string of them in the last handful of years. And so, but yeah, man, it's just how it's kind of unfolded for me.
Well, it was an interesting game, the Hustle game, because they go up early. There's not a lot of turnovers to be had. What do you think swung the game back into your favor to put you in a position to where, a couple small errors from Atlanta late opened the door for you to all get the win?
Well, I don't think we had a throwaway from like the mid second quarter to like the end of the fourth. But Oliver Fay had that insane layout against Holzmeier, I think late in the third or mid of the fourth. That kind of opened things up a little bit more for us. I think we were just trading blows that whole time, but that opened it up to us being up one or maybe two. Maybe it was two. I know, man, the one point where we had the disc for 2.5 minutes out of that timeout to go up two was really kind of the turning point for us, realizing, we were able to hold the disc for that amount of time and really kill the clock as an offense. And I think that brought a lot of belief back into the D line that we could hold as long as we could to give us a chance. So Oliver's block and then offense being able to just play against their zone really calm and collected and punch it in was I think a huge turning point for us in that game.
What do you think has made the difference for the team this season and allowing you to reach these new heights and reach championship weekend?
That's a good question. I think consistency over a long period of time. Coach Najee in 2021 was like, look, I've got this 3-year plan, and in the third year, we're going to make camp weekend or win it. I don't remember exactly what he said, but so he's been just consistent the last 3 years, and he's the guy that is kind of the foundation for this team. He watches so much film. He does all the small things right. He set up our field for the last 2 weeks, the same length as Atlanta's field, just so we can get the reps on a shorter field. We've shortened the stalls to 5 stalls because we've had trouble with getting stalled out with the Atlanta reps. And so all those small adjustments that Najee's brought to the team, I think have slowly built up that, you say 1% every day is what you want to be doing, so that over a course of 3 years, we're here where we are now. So, big props to Najee, and then also just props to the consistency of the team. And we've had a similar O-line, similar D-line. We've all been just, between 20 and 25 or so, continuing to hang out with one another and grow and practice together and give each other hard truths so that we could be, where we are now.
What do you feel like you learned from your losses to Carolina and Atlanta during the season? Because it's a weird year for you all to have to play these, honestly, not very good teams in your division in Texas a lot of the time. Yeah,
we look back at that Atlanta game specifically, and we felt like we played probably our worst game of the season. So there was a lot to learn from there. We really sucked at swinging the disc. We really struggled with hitting the over the tops, and so we know those were some big focuses going into Atlanta this time around. I don't really remember that Carolina game. We got squashed. Both times we got squashed in the first quarter and just couldn't ever come back. So starting hot in the first was what we wanted in Atlanta. We still couldn't do it, but it was 2 points closer than it was the last time. So that was some of our saving grace there. But man, yeah, it's so hard to, when you have only three matchups against, those two teams, it's really challenging to take a ton away from it. And so we just did our best to kind of control what we could and then give our best effort in Atlanta.
Well, you did the hard part. You got out of the South. Now you just have to beat, New York and Minnesota and Salt Lake. So this part should be easy. But how are you preparing for this next step in the journey now that you're finally reached championship weekend?
Yeah. Well, the same we always have the last couple of games. I mean, now she puts 4 games into the group chat and says, hey, watch these. Here's the notables to look for. And, I had said that we were playing with house money going into Atlanta, and now we're winning with house money. So I just don't know what we can't do now. But yeah, we're excited to continue to just practice. I'm pumped just to practice with these guys for 2 more weeks, let alone go to champ weekend. And a lot of the motivation was, while we kind of got over the hump of winning a playoff game after beating Carolina, going into Atlanta, you want to make sure you're not too content with having done that. And so just keeping in the back of your mind the idea of what it would be like to make more memories together at camp weekend, get to be on the stage, was definitely a motivating factor for so many of us. And so we're just going to, prepare like we had the last 2 games, not try and do too much different, and kind of, do what we can in Minnesota.
All right. Well, specifically, you got New York up first. They just came off a game against what I think is the second best team in the league in DC, and they kind of dismantled them. They had the fewest turnovers in a game ever in AUDL history for a full 48-minute game, just 4 turnovers. How the hell do you knock this Empire team off? A lot of teams have been trying to figure it out, and they haven't lost a game in like 2 years or something.
I'd like to think that we just have just some wildness about us. I think DC is just too methodical. They're too cookie cutter. Their offense is too good, too clean. Well, clean is a good thing, but they're very methodical in the way that they do things. And I just seen the last 2 games. It takes some magic for us to win some games. It takes some big moments, it takes some hype, and so we got to be able to ride that. So what we're going to be able to do is bring some wild things up to Minnesota and see what New York can do about it.
It certainly seems like your team has thrived as the underdog. And honestly, I think of, Ultimate in Texas as kind of having a chip on your shoulder, feeling like a lot of people around the country don't respect the players or the teams there enough. Do you feel like that's something that helps motivate your team? And why do you think people underestimate the Soul and your communities?
I mean, seeing our regular season, I can totally understand why we've been underestimated. We had a good 2022 season for sure. But yeah, I suppose, just like I said, getting over the hump of winning a playoff game, we haven't been able to do that. And so if we can't even prove to ourselves that we're supposed to be where we say we are, then there's no reason for anyone else to believe in us. And so we've been working, again, now she's been putting in work on trying to get our pro and club teams together to get our, college pipeline working. And so there's a lot behind the scenes to try and grow roots to where we can really flourish and have a more sustainable model as opposed to, something like we tried to do in 2021 with Dallas, which was just kind of get a bunch of guys from different places and get us all to play together, which can be really challenging. So.
Well, it's going to be a lot of fun seeing you all try to take on the juggernaut. So good luck, and I will certainly look forward to seeing you in Minneapolis. And this is your personal first championship weekend as well, right?
It sure is, yeah.
What are you most looking forward to?
For whatever reason, just walking through the front gates, just seeing Joey Wiley on one banner and Jeff Babbitt on another banner. It's just funny to me just to see us finally, again, just breaking past that feeling that we've always had and finally getting to be there. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And I don't think anyone else wants anyone but New York. So we're glad to be able to get that matchup and just play on the biggest stage. It's going to be so much fun.
All right. Well, Kyle, good luck, and we'll see you there.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Kyle Henke with us here on Deep Look. We will be right back. When I die, I may not go to heaven, 'cause I don't know if they let cowboys in. If they don't, just let me go to Texas, 'cause Texas is as close as I've been. New York couldn't hold my intentions. Detroit City couldn't sing my songs. If tomorrow finds me busted flat in Dallas, then I won't care, 'cause at least I'll know I'm home. When I die, I may not go to heaven, 'cause I don't know if they let cowboys in. If they don't, just let me go to Texas, 'cause Texas is as close as I've been. All right, Keith. Shout out to the Austin Soul and a great bet in the Discord, as I lost that one and have paid my penance. I also owe a 6-pack of beer after betting on Atlanta to advance the championship weekend.
Folks, if you subscribe, you also can make Charlie do these things on the air. I don't know whether also we could push subscribe. Should subscribers only get to hear your angelic voice, or should you have to subscribe to not hear it? You can skip this part if you.
There's actually subscribe. A choice. It's like you can choose the A or the B podcast when you're a subscriber.
No, beautifully done. And way to own up. You took the Texas fade, and it's a big state to fade.
Tanya Tucker, legend, sings it better than I do. That's for sure. And that song is "Texas When I Die," classic country.
And I don't know if that's what the audience expected when they came in this week. It certainly wasn't what I expected. This was This is my first time hearing this, y'all, so I'm a little stunned.
Keith is frozen. All right. So we move on now to the Elite Select Challenge. Am I missing anything, Keith, or is it ESC preview time?
Well, so we have ESC coming up, but why don't we stop by for our brief mailbag question of the week?
Question of the week. Let's do it.
All right. So our mailbag question of the week comes in from Pat. Is there another first name that boasts more ultimate talent than Claire? I'll even allow different spelling variations, so you could count 2 different Dylans. I guess that's probably necessary because there may be multiple spellings of Claire. But yeah, is there a name? And with this actually blossomed into a conversation on our Discord. So it was opened up to all time ultimate players. The best first name, most talented.
Now, I will say that some people in the Discord started talking about how some names, like for instance, let's say John, are diluted by all of the mediocre to below average players named John who play Ultimate. But I don't care about that. I only am interested in like the top 7 or whatever.
Who makes the John team,
Yes, exactly. So if there's bad versions of the name, that doesn't matter. Now, Claire is a great starting point. Let's just acknowledge that right off the top. You obviously have Claire Trope, Claire Chastain, Claire Desmond, Claire France. I'm trying to think of who else. Other Claires that come to mind, Keith?
I'm sure there are Claires in history who've been great players. Claire Revere.
Claire Revere probably makes the Claire team, at least for now.
I mean, you could definitely go back.
Very strong
in the annals.
Very strong. So let's think about this.
Well, I mean, I think as sad as it is to say it, the answer is going to be super boring white names. It's going to be John, Mike, Sarah, Anne. There's probably a lot of good Anns or Annas. Do you get Anna? You probably do. There's a lot of those running around. So it's probably in actuality one of those. If you did use the averaging technique, then you start to look for people who have really original names. Somebody brought up we talked about Rory Tickcomb earlier, but the Tickcombs. So Gina has pretty unique name. Fortunat was another one that was brought up.
Yeah, but being one of one all-time is not
great names. But we want volume. We want volume counts here.
Being one of one, we're not talking about the average player by that name.
Agreed.
We're talking about the best team. And I'm sorry, one China is not going to overcome a team with 7 players. Yeah, I mean it's kind of tough. I'm trying to think back in the history books.
Look at John. You got John Hassel, John Stubbs, John Remicall. I mean, we're going to talk about the Hall of Fame class in our subscriber bonus, and there's 2 Johns in there already. Just in Atlanta, John Hammond. I'm sure we can think of so many Johns. There's almost too many for me to even like sit down and think about the Johns specifically. Mike Grant, Mike McKenzie. I haven't even left Canada yet. How many more Mikes can we get? Mike Tank Natenberg. There are many.
We can't forget about the possibility of Jim and James. Jimmy, right? So you get Jim Parinella, you get Jimmy Mickle. That's a pretty good starting point. I'm just going to be honest. How about names like more gender neutral names? Alex could be a big winner.
Nord and Snyder
in the Hall of Fame, and I'm sure we could come up with a bunch of current players.
DeFrondeville.
There you go. I don't know if Kenneth, Ken. We got Dobbins, but is that it? Of note?
Ken Porter.
Okay.
Kenneth Taylor. Now, I'm sure there are more Kens. But yeah, Chris. What do you get from Chris? Because you could get there are some gender neutral Chris's.
Do you get Christine?
Right. Do you get Christine or something like?
If you get Chris and Christine, that's a huge.
That seems
win.
like cheating.
That seems like cheating.
Because it's Christopher that Chris is actually the name of, right? Like, feels a little bit like cheating. But then what do you do with James too, or Robert? Like, do Robert and Bob and Robbie all like?
I think so. I think for the purposes of this exercise, I think so. Who's the best current name? Claire is probably the best current name.
Claire could
right?
be. I still think there may be some sort of like you think about Anne and Anna and you get Anna Thompson and Anna Nazaroff on one team, like where else do you? I'm trying to think of other ones that might pop up, but that's another name that feels like it could compete with Claire. But yeah, I mean, Claire's been the Claire Chastain, Claire Desmond combo definitely pushed the Claires into being part of the conversation.
Well, and Claire Trope.
Well, now and now as recently you've had Claire Trope.
I see. Yes. An interesting conversation for sure. Can anybody think top Claire though? From like, I haven't. I don't think we've come up with a set that tops Claire yet.
I'm sure somebody will.
It depends on how wide latitude you get for names and nicknames. I think
a little bit, yeah.
All right, let's move on to the Elite Select Challenge. It's coming up this weekend. We will be live streaming. Standard and all access subscribers will get access to all games. Doing 2 games per round. So you can tune in and check that out. We got some fun ones on tap. Kicking things off, 9 a.m. Eastern time, Saturday morning, Toro and Hybrid, along with Schwa and Flight. And Keith, this is like a fairly interesting tournament. And as usual, it is probably going to decide many of the bubble bids. There's a lot of teams that are getting to 10 games for the first time here. And, you know, as exciting as Pro Champs is from kind of like a looking ahead to nationals perspective, the vast majority of teams at Pro Champs, if not all of them, are going to earn a bid or are already earning a bid. So this is the tournament where the rubber meets the road when it comes to earning enough points to get that bid for your region.
Yeah, I'm looking right now at the projected bid, you know, teams right around the line. In the men's division, you've got Chain Lightning and Omen and Tanasi, Sub-Zero. Those are all teams that are around the line that are going to be at this tournament. In the women's division, you've got Grit, Parcha, Nemesis, Ozone, Nightlock, Tabby, who is, you know, fairly new to the rankings, Flight. There's a lot of potential for them to move around. All these teams are potential bid earners or current bid earners. And then in the mixed division, you've got the likes of Hybrid, Toro, Rally, Sprocket, Impact. They're slow. Like there are a lot of teams in the mix here. And because at this point, and typically during club season, game totals are so low, people have really volatile rankings.
Yeah, it should be a really interesting tournament. You know, can Bent defend their number 1 seed? Will they look like a team that is going from, you know, having to competing at Elite Select Challenge to, okay, this is a contending team for a quarterfinal spot at Nationals? Because those are very different things.
It feels like Bent has a little margin for error. Like, how many close games could they win before you're worried at this tournament? Like, if you want to see them as a team that has an outside shot at semis, or, you know, is a very secure position in quarters,
let's not talk about semis. Let's not talk about
we need
semis.
to see them beat up on Parcha and Tabby Rosa and Fab. We need to see them thumping teams in quarters or whatnot. I think they probably get one close game, and maybe you would give them a second close one if it's in the final. But they really don't have a lot of margin for error if they are as good as I think people feel like they could be.
Yeah, they certainly have the tools to win this tournament going away. I mean, they're going to get a challenge, though, down the stretch, because Schwa is the 2 seed, and I think it could be argued that Schwa should be the 1 seed. Like, has Bent really proven it compared to a team like Schwa? You've got Riot. We'll see how they look. Still young, but certainly improving. A lot of really impressive young talent. I'm looking forward to the rematch between Shine and Crocs. You know, who knows what's going to happen in the mixed division. Shame is the 1 seed here. They looked awesome at US Open, but now let's see how they stand up to a weaker set of teams overall. But, you know, there's some dangerous teams in this field, including Hybrid and Crocs, and, you know, even Mischief down at the 6 seed feels like a team that could win this tournament.
There's an argument to me that this is the most compelling division at the tournament. I mean, it starts when you look at the bottom half of these pools. You know, when you see Sprocket, Toro, Slow, Dirty Bird, PE, Love Tractor, CLX, Impact as your bottom 8 seeds, like, I can envision 3 of the semifinalists coming from that group of teams. It does not seem out of the realm of possibility to me. So I think the mix is particularly compelling. I think the seeding's a little odd too. How good is Crocs? That may be the lead question to me in the mixed division. Like, is this team for real? Could they be better than just getting into nationals? Like, are they don't have a ton of like really great wins. We don't exactly know how good Toro and Rally are. I think they were a little bit disappointing at PEC East. So what are Crocs really going to look like? Like you mentioned, that rematch against Shine is a good matchup, but all of their pool play matchups, I think, are worthwhile wins. Should they be able to get them? And then again, I mentioned Rally and Toro looking a little bit rocky in their first tournaments of the season. Hybrid also. So I think Pool B is like really a proving ground. Hybrid lost games to CLX and AMP, both really close. And obviously that AMP loss looks a lot better now. But, they also lost, like we mentioned, lost to CLX 10-9. So Hybrid, a bit unproven. Pool B is like the proving ground in the mixed division for me.
And then over in the men's division, Sockeye is your 1 seed. They're coming off of a dubious performance at the U.S. Open. Vault is the top 10 team in the rankings right now. Dig. I feel like Dig is the favorite. If Dig has a full-strength team, I think they win this tournament. Whoa, cat alert. My cat has decided that jumping off of my shelves and flying down right in front of me on the table is a fun thing to do, which is not what I'm looking for. So anyway, love Dig, and we get to take a look at Chain. It's nice to get a chance to see Chain after they played all the way back at the beginning of July in what feels like kind of like a preseason tournament at PC West. And hey, they don't have to worry about being healthy for the AUDL Championship weekend anymore. So let's see full strength Chain.
Yeah, well, let's see if they come out like ready for blood, or if they're like still a little bit taken aback. Yeah, honestly, like if I were taking teams most likely to win this tournament, Sockey's like 4th or 5th to me.
Yeah, definitely.
I think I have Dog. I think I have Dig. I said Dog. They probably love that. I have Dig, Chain, Condors, and maybe Vault. Maybe Chain. Like Dig and Condors, I feel like I would favor over Sockeye at this point. And Vault and Chain are definitely in that same conversation. So I think that those 5 teams feel like the decent favorites. I will be surprised if the winner of the tournament or even another finalist comes from another outside of that group. But yeah, those are the 5 teams we're looking at, the top 5 seeds, I guess.
Why are you slandering Raleigh Durham United, who beat Pony, the U.S. Open champions?
They did beat. They'll always have that. They could lose every game for the rest. They could get bageled in every game for the rest of the season and still be like, well, we beat Pony. They beat Temper that weekend 13-4 too. This is a
big weekend for the Southeast men's, because you've got Chain and Raleigh. They're in the same pool and they're both protecting bids. You figure Chain is better than the 14 in the country, but you also figure that Raleigh is not as good as their 11 in the country. So let's find out. I think it's, we could see a 3-bid Southeast if things break right for them here. And who knows, with Tenacity, is 4 out of the question? It's not impossible.
They've got work to do, because I think some of these teams from down in the seeding are going to be coming out strong. I mean, you look at like Sprout and Temper, who are in the same pool. Temper is the 15 seed. Yeah, that is weird seeding. I guess I don't know for sure who they're going to bring, but there is very little chance to me that the top 8 seeds all make it into quarters. That just does not seem likely to me.
I wouldn't bet on it. I mean, for what it's worth, Temper, I know you're saying it's surprising to the 15 seed. They've been terrible. I mean, they lost 14-7 to Tenacity. They've lost at Garden State. They got crushed by RDU. I think they're better than that, but they also don't really have the results to back it up. So I think their seeding makes sense.
Also, you're not going to mention Sub-Zero versus Mutiny versus Sockeye round 2.
Love it. That game is going to be so chippy. I can't wait.
Let the kids run. Let the kids run.
Keith, let's make our semis and finals and winner picks.
All right, let me get the doc ready for your picks. Which division do you want to start in?
Well, we've been talking men's net here, so let's just stay there for now. I'm gonna go. Are we just doing finals or are we doing semis?
It's up to you. We did semis and finals for the U.S. Open, but I think that's
I like
the first
doing the
tournament
semis.
we've
I think
done
it's fun. I'm
the whole
gonna
thing.
take vault, dig, chain, condors to semis. That's right. No sockeye. Can that work out? I actually need to make sure that will work. That means I think that sockeye loses to Omen in quarters. No, I take it back. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Structurally, sockeye is going to make semis. So I take
Yeah, one seed
sockeye.
installation.
I take vault. I take dig. I take condors. And then I've got dig and sockeye in the final, and dig wins it all.
So Sockey's just getting the weak schedule here. Is that the vibe?
Well, I mean, they have to beat Tenacity, Sub, and Hip. Now, they could lose to Sub. They could lose to Tenacity. I don't know. Anything is possible. This has been a crazy club season, but I am going to take them to win those games.
And then they have to got to beat Omen, I guess.
Right.
All right. I think I also have to take Sockeye. I'm not buying Sub yet. So I'm also going to take Sockeye, Vault. I'm going to take Chain. Because they have to play. Oh, they have to play Condors. So it's the Condors or Dig, whoever loses that game. I'm high on Chain this year, so I am high on Condors and Dig. That sucks that they're all three in the same spot. Those are my three teams that I want to pick the most.
It's basically not possible for all of them to make semis. I mean, it's possible, but it would be surprising.
Yeah. You would need one of them to fit. You need Chain to finish.
One of them
second.
needs to finish third in their pool, basically.
No,
but
you don't
wouldn't
make
even
the bracket.
Finish, no.
Yeah.
It's
So
just
you have
not
to.
possible.
So Chain would have to finish second in Pool D, but then you can't do it. They can't all three make it. Someone's getting knocked out. I'm definitely taking Dig. They're just too good, I think. I'll ride with Chain here. So I'll take Dig and Chain, and then I'll take Chain over Sockeye, Dig on the other side, and I guess I'll take Dig to win too.
All
A
right.
little boring for us to both have Dig, but I think they're the best team.
In the mixed division, I'm going Shame, Hybrid, Shine, Crocs to semis. Now, wait a minute. I was thinking Sockeye. Hang on a second. I got to go back. I got to double check that I like my picks for that. That's going to be Condors versus Sockeye, and it's going to be Dig versus Vault. No, I'm taking Condors over Sockeye, and I'm taking Dig over Condors in the final. Please revise my picks. Suddenly, I can't remember how to look at a bracket. Did you take Condors and Dig too?
No, I took Chain. So we basically have the
Chain.
same things, except that you have.
Yeah.
You have
I'm fading Sockeye. I was thinking they were going to play Vault in semis, but that's just not right.
We're both on the Sockeye fade. It's just a question of who we're fading them with.
Right. Okay, back to mixed. Shame, Hybrid, Shine, Crocs. I am with that. I'm taking Hybrid and Shame to the final. Shame wins it all. Pretty chalky, but Shame is good. Shame's really good.
This is a tough one. Like I said, I definitely expect some surprises. And there's a bunch of teams that just feels like we don't know anything. We don't, what do we know about Space Force? Right? Mischief had a good start to the year. Can they back that up? I don't. This is a particularly difficult setup. I think I am. Let's see. I think I'm going to take Mischief out of Pool D as the winner of that pool. I'm also going to take Crocs. I will also take Shame. And where does A2 go? They probably play B.
B1.
Yeah, A crossover with B. I'm going to take Sprocket. So I'll take Shame, Sprocket, Crocs, and Mischief into the semifinals. That gives me Mischief and Shame. So I'm going to take Shame into the finals as well with Crocs. I'll take Shame to win. What was your finalist and winner?
I took Shame and Hybrid and then a Shame to win it all.
Got it.
In the women's division, I'm going Bent, Schwa, Grit, and Nightlock. And I've got Schwa and Bent in the final. Give me Schwa.
I like it. I like that we're getting some new stuff in here. Okay. Sucks because I think I was thinking about the same kind of upset. All right. I'm definitely taking Bent as well. Bent and Schwa, I think, are easy ones. I'm gonna take Riot. Let's ride with the young team. Nightlock, I think, as well. And I'll have Bent against Schwa, and I guess I'll take Bent. Yeah, that all seems reasonable to me.
All right. So there are our picks in the books for the Elite Select Challenge. Should be a fun one. Again, you can tune in on ultiworld.com/live. 2 games per round. Standard and all access subscribers will have access as well as everybody with a team pack. Go to ultiworld.com/subscribe to learn more. And not only will you get that, you will also get our subscriber bonus segment here on Deep Look. It is called Out the Back. And this week we're talking about the upcoming finalist class for the Hall of Fame. We're starting to get into the Ultiworld era in the Hall of Fame, Keith. Some players who were balling out in the middle 2010s are on the ballot, including Bo Kittredge. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. We all know that, but who else should get in? We're going to talk about that in our sub bonus segment. So join us on Out the Back. For Keith Rayner, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long, and we'll talk to you next week right here on Deep Look.